The storm had rolled into the small New England town without warning, one of those cold, relentless rains that seemed to wash away noise, pride, and every illusion of control. Inside the old brick community shelter, the lights flickered with each strike of thunder, and volunteers hurried to offer blankets, warm food, and quiet comfort. It smelled like cinnamon, old coffee, and wet jackets, an oddly familiar scent for anyone who had grown up in the Northeast. Adrian Wells had not planned to be here. He was only supposed to inspect the shelter's renovation project, a partnership his company was funding, but something made him step inside instead of waiting in the car. Maybe it was God, maybe guilt, maybe the weight of the last few years finally cracking. Either way, the moment he crossed the threshold, everything changed, because that's when he saw her. Lily Harper stood near the back of the room, helping an elderly woman take off her soaked coat. She didn't speak. She simply smiled, gentle, warm, almost apologetic, and the woman relaxed instantly. Lily's hands moved with a softness that felt like prayer in motion. Adrian froze, unable to understand why something so simple disarmed him so completely. He had seen countless people pretend to care. But this felt real. It wasn't her beauty, though she was undeniably beautiful. It was the way her presence calmed the room, the way she knelt to wipe rainwater from the floor so someone wouldn't slip, the way she noticed details no one else did. She didn't perform kindness. She lived it, and she did it without saying a single word. Adrian didn't understand why he could read her so quickly, why her silence spoke louder than conversations he'd had with board members and partners. He didn't know her story. He didn't even know her name. But something in her eyes carried both strength and heartbreak, faith and exhaustion. A story he suddenly wanted to hear, even if she never spoke it aloud. When Lily finally looked up, their eyes met across the dim room. Adrian felt something shift, not in the dramatic movie theater way, but in the quiet, unmistakable way God sometimes nudges a person when they're too stubborn to listen any other way. He didn't know this woman, yet he felt like he'd been waiting for this moment. And Lily? She looked away quickly, as if uncomfortable with being seen, as if she preferred her kindness to stay invisible. Adrian took a step toward her, not knowing that this single step would begin a story neither of them was ready for, a story where the heart would speak long before words ever could. Before we continue, subscribe now and stay until the end. This story may speak to something inside you in ways you don't expect. The storm outside grew louder, shaking the old shelter windows as if testing their resolve. Inside, people shuffled to tables, shedding wet coats and thanking volunteers for hot cocoa and quick comfort. Adrian stood by the entrance, rainwater dripping from his jacket, unable to look away from Lily. Something in him told him to stop, to watch, to listen to the quiet message God was whispering through her presence. Lily did not notice him at first. She moved with a soft rhythm, checking on each person as if she had memorized the needs of strangers she barely knew. Her cardigan sleeves were rolled to her elbows, exposing faint scars she didn't hide or explain. She handed a pair of dry socks to a teenage boy, tapping her heart gently as if to say, "It's okay. You're safe." The boy nodded, understanding her without a single word. Adrian felt a strange tug in his chest, an instinct he hadn't felt in years. He had built empires, negotiated with leaders, signed deals worth millions, but none of that required what stood in front of him now, the ability to see a person's soul. He watched Lily kneel to tighten an elderly man's shoelaces, humming an old hymn under her breath, the kind his grandmother used to sing in their New Hampshire church. When she finally straightened, her gaze drifted around the room. For a moment she paused, almost sensing someone watching her. Adrian stiffened, unsure why his heart pounded like he'd been caught doing something wrong. But Lily simply tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear and returned to helping a woman who struggled to hold her plate steady. Adrian exhaled and rubbed the back of his neck. He didn't believe in coincidences, never had. But why did he feel as if he had walked into the exact room he needed to be in? Why her out of all the people in this town? Why now, after years of silence inside his own heart? He approached the volunteer table, attempting to blend in, though he knew he stood out. His tailored coat, soaked or not, still screamed outsider. One of the older volunteers recognized him from the newspaper and whispered something to a friend, earning a glare from Adrian. He hated being discussed like a headline. It reminded him of every moment the world twisted his intentions. But Lily, she didn't care who he was. She hadn't even looked at him long enough to recognize him. Her focus remained on the people around her, on needs, not names. It was humbling in a way he didn't expect, almost unsettling. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the back table. A woman with hearing difficulties struggled to understand directions from a volunteer who was speaking too quickly. Lily stepped in gently, touching the woman's hand to get her attention and then signing slowly. Clearly, the woman's face relaxed, and she squeezed Lily's hand in gratitude. Adrian felt something in him crack open. He recognized the sign language, not fluently, but enough. His mother had taught him a few phrases before she passed. Watching Lily communicate so gracefully made him remember hands that once spoke love to him without words. He blinked hard, trying to swallow the wave of emotion rising unexpectedly. Lily helped the woman sit down and brought her a cup of chamomile tea, the kind locals drank on cold northeastern nights. She placed her hand over her own heart and then pointed gently at the woman, a gesture full of tender reassurance. Adrian felt that same reassurance brushing against him, though she hadn't even glanced in his direction. He walked closer, drawn like someone following warmth after years of standing in the cold. Lily finally noticed him, her eyes widening slightly, not in fear but in cautious curiosity. She straightened her posture, gripping the tea towel in her hands. Adrian saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, quickly hidden behind a polite smile. He wondered who had taught her to hide so fast. "Hi," he said softly, almost surprising himself with how gentle his voice sounded. Lily nodded, offering a hesitant smile, but she didn't speak. She only tilted her head slightly, waiting. Adrian suddenly felt 16 again, awkward and unsure, standing in front of someone who saw through him. It was disarming, almost holy. "I'm Adrian," he managed, clearing his throat. She nodded again as if she had expected that. He searched her eyes, trying to understand why she felt familiar in a place filled with strangers. Lily pressed her lips together, took a small breath and made a quick gesture with her fingers. One Adrian recognized. "Nice to meet you." He felt that knot in his chest tug tighter. "You sign," he whispered, unable to hide the surprise. Lily nodded. Her cheeks warmed, either from the question or from being observed too closely. She stepped back to let a volunteer pass, bumping into a table slightly. Adrian instinctively reached out, not touching her, but close enough for her to feel it. For a long second their eyes locked. Thunder rolled outside, but neither flinched. Lily swallowed, looking unsure whether she should stay or flee. Adrian felt the same conflict inside himself, but neither moved. A little girl ran up to Lily, tugging her cardigan and signing quickly about the rain outside. Lily smiled softly, knelt and wiped the girl's wet cheeks with a napkin. The tenderness in her face made Adrian feel something he couldn't articulate, something reverent, something awakening. The girl hugged Lily tight before running back to her family. Lily rose slowly, brushing her hair behind her ear again. Adrian took a small step forward. "You help everyone here," he said quietly. Lily looked down, almost embarrassed, and shook her head. But Adrian saw the truth anyway. He exhaled, his voice barely above a whisper. "Lily," he called softly, without having been introduced. Her head snapped up, eyes wide, breath caught, heart pounding. Adrian froze too, realizing he hadn't meant to say her name aloud. And in that suspended moment both understood. Something much bigger than them had just begun. Lily stepped back the moment Adrian said her name, her breath catching as if someone had pulled a secret out of her chest. The room continued buzzing with noise. Volunteers, children, the storm outside. But around them, everything felt suddenly still. She pressed her fingers together nervously, a familiar way she grounded herself when her thoughts raced. Adrian noticed, storing the detail quietly. I'm sorry," he said softly, raising his hands in a small gesture of honesty. "Someone mentioned your name earlier. It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't a lie either." Lily nodded politely, though the pink in her cheeks deepened with caution. She shifted her weight, ready to step away, but something held her in place. Adrian wished he could explain what he had felt when he saw her helping the others. But how do you tell a stranger that their presence calmed you? That their silence felt more sincere than 1,000 conversations? He didn't know how to say any of that without sounding intrusive. So he simply breathed and waited. Lily tucked a damp curl behind her ear, glancing toward the exit as if the pouring rain suddenly seemed inviting. She wasn't afraid of Adrian. She just wasn't used to being seen. She had mastered the art of blending into rooms, of helping without being noticed, of speaking through gestures so she wouldn't risk stumbling over her own voice. Adrian sensed the retreat happening inside her long before she stepped back. "Please, don't go yet," he said gently. Lily paused, surprised, conflicted. People rarely asked her to stay. They rarely noticed she was leaving. A volunteer walked by carrying a box, and Lily used the moment to create distance, stepping behind a table as if it offered protection. Adrian followed her with his gaze, but not with his feet. He didn't want to corner her. He wanted her trust. Slowly, sincerely, the way wounded things learn to approach light again. "You're really good with people," he said, his voice careful and soft, like someone speaking indoors on a snowy morning. Lily looked down, twisting the edge of her sleeve between her fingers. Compliments made her uncomfortable. They always had. She simply nodded, acknowledging the words without accepting them. A middle-aged man waved for Lily's help with a tablet form, and she went immediately, almost grateful for the distraction. Adrian watched her kneel beside the man, guiding him through the form with patient gestures, pointing, tapping, even drawing little symbols to help him understand. She didn't simply help, she uplifted. But even from across the room, Adrian noticed the shift, the subtle tremor in her hands, the way she inhaled through her nose to calm her heartbeat. He recognized that kind of anxiety, the quiet kind, the practiced kind, the kind that comes from being silenced one too many times. He wasn't imagining it. She struggled to speak when she felt watched. It wasn't shyness, it was pain, a bruise someone left on her voice long ago, and Adrian felt anger rise at the thought. When she finished helping the man, Lily turned to find Adrian still observing her, not with judgment, but with a tenderness she didn't know how to receive. Their eyes met again, and her throat tightened instantly. She opened her mouth to say something, but only a soft breath came out, barely audible. Adrian stepped closer. Not too close, just near enough for her to sense safety. "You don't have to talk," he said quietly. Her shoulders loosened with visible relief. How did he know? Why did he understand what no one else ever had? The storm outside roared louder as wind slammed against the metal door, making a few people jump. Lily, however, stayed still, eyes fixed on Adrian as if trying to decipher something she wasn't prepared to name. His expression was steady, anchored, strangely gentle for a man known in town for being cold and distant. "You're not uncomfortable with silence," he observed almost to himself. Lily blinked, surprised. Most people found her quietness unsettling. Most assumed something was wrong with her. Adrian didn't. She took a deep breath, letting her fingers form slow signs. "I speak. I just don't always know how to begin." Adrian nodded, the sincerity in his eyes making her stomach twist in confusion. Why did he look at her like that? Like her silence wasn't a flaw but a language. Then, unexpectedly, he added, "You don't need perfect words for me to understand you." Lily's breath caught again. No one had ever told her that. People demanded clarity, fluency, confidence. Adrian asked for none of it. She swallowed hard, her gaze dropping to the floor. Something inside her wanted to run. Something else wanted to stay, desperately. Adrian noticed the internal war and spoke softly, careful not to tip the weight to either side. "If you ever want help with anything you're working on here, I'd like to be involved." Lily looked up, startled. He didn't know about her project, her fragile dream she'd kept hidden in notebooks. He couldn't possibly know he had just touched her deepest wound, but his eyes told her something she couldn't escape. He had seen her heart long before she found the courage to speak a single word. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind puddles that reflected the pale New England sky. Lily walked toward the shelter with her notebook pressed close to her chest, hoping the day would be quieter. Her steps were soft, almost hesitant, as if she feared running into Adrian again. Part of her hoped he wouldn't come, another part prayed he would. Inside, the scent of fresh muffins filled the kitchen, Mrs. Donovan's doing, as usual. Volunteers greeted Lily warmly, but she moved with the same gentle invisibility as always. She unpacked supplies, arranged donated coats by size, and kept her eyes focused on tasks. But her hands trembled slightly, betraying the thoughts she tried so hard to bury. She was still replaying the previous night, the way Adrian had looked at her, not with pity, but with understanding. She didn't know what felt more terrifying, the possibility that he truly saw her, or the possibility that she had imagined it. People don't notice girls like her. People certainly don't read their hearts. When the front door creaked open, Lily's breath caught. Adrian stepped inside, shaking leftover rain from his coat. He looked like someone who hadn't slept much, like someone who'd been thinking too. Lily froze in place, gripping a box of canned goods a little too tightly. Adrian's eyes found her instantly, softening. "Morning," he said gently, as if speaking louder might scare her away. Lily nodded, setting the box down before her shaking hands betrayed her. She didn't trust her voice yet. It always cracked when she felt watched. Adrian noticed and gave her space, speaking about simple things, weather, renovations, donated supplies. But he watched her carefully, respectfully, as if waiting for the right moment. When she finally calmed, Lily opened her notebook to check the inventory list. But Adrian's eyes caught the edges of something inside. A sketch, a diagram, handwritten notes. She quickly closed it, cheeks burning. It wasn't ready to be seen. She wasn't ready to explain it. Not yet. Adrian hesitated before speaking. "Can I show you something?" Lily blinked, surprised. He motioned toward the hallway, and she followed reluctantly, hugging her notebook like armor. Adrian stopped in front of the old bulletin board near the office. Pinned to it was a faded flyer. "Free speech and writing workshop, helping you find your voice." Lily's stomach dropped. She remembered that flyer. 3 years ago she had signed up. She had shown up early, notebook in hand, ready to try. But when it was her turn to speak, her voice cracked. Someone laughed, low, cruel, unforgettable. Adrian didn't know the story, but he read the pain in her eyes as if someone had spoken it out loud. "That workshop still runs," he said softly. Lily looked away quickly. He understood. The wound was still open. Without thinking, Adrian whispered, "Who told you your voice wasn't enough?" The words hit her like a gentle blow. Unexpected, deeply felt. Lily's throat tightened, and she shook her head, refusing to revisit memories she'd spent years burying. Adrian swallowed hard. Someone had broken her spirit long before he arrived. She lifted her hand slowly, signing with trembling fingers. "People don't want to wait for me to speak." Adrian felt something twist inside his chest. "That's not true," he whispered. Lily blinked rapidly, fighting the sting in her eyes. No one had ever defended her voice before. Not like this. Mrs. Donovan called Lily from the kitchen, breaking the tension. Lily exhaled shakily, grateful for the interruption. But Adrian stepped aside to let her pass. Noticing the forced steadiness of her walk, she moved like someone used to holding emotions in until they disappeared. Someone used to silence. As the morning went on, the shelter grew busier. Lily helped a little girl read a picture book, her voice barely above a whisper. Adrian watched from a distance, noticing how she spoke to children with less fear. She trusted young hearts. They hadn't learned cruelty yet. He wondered how young she had been when someone stopped listening to her. When the room finally quieted, Lily stepped outside to catch her breath. Cold air brushed her cheeks, grounding her. She hated that her voice had become something she needed courage to use. She hated even more that Adrian had noticed. It made her feel exposed, and strangely relieved. Adrian joined her but kept a respectful distance. "You don't have to tell me," he said softly. "But I want you to know something." She turned to him cautiously. "I don't see brokenness in you, Lily." He paused. I see someone who wasn't protected. Her breath hitched sharply, like he had opened a door she kept locked. She looked away, blinking back tears she didn't want anyone to witness. But Adrian didn't push, didn't pry. He simply stood with her in the cold, offering presence instead of pressure. The kind of presence that mended instead of hurting. Lily turned slightly toward him, her lips parting as if she wanted to speak. A single syllable escaped. Soft, shaky, unfinished. Her voice trembled, but it was real. Adrian didn't move or react, afraid to interrupt the courage rising inside her. He simply nodded, encouraging her silently. After a long pause, Lily whispered her first full sentence around him, barely audible, fragile as a dawn breeze. "Thank you for seeing me." Adrian exhaled, emotion tightening his throat, because he had seen her long before she ever spoke a word. Adrian wasn't supposed to be back at the shelter the next day, but his car seemed to turn in that direction without asking his permission. Something about the place felt grounding, simpler, quieter, more honest than the sleek office buildings he usually spent his days in. When he walked inside, no thunder rolled, no storm raged. Only the soft hum of people helping people, which somehow felt even louder to him now. Lily noticed his arrival but tried not to. She kept her eyes on the donation shelf, organizing scarves by color and gloves by size. Her heart tightened with a mix of nerves and anticipation. She wasn't ready for him to see more than he already had. Yet a small, brave part of her hoped he would. Adrian approached the volunteer sign-in table, much to everyone's surprise. "I'd like to help today," he said. The coordinator nearly dropped her clipboard. People in town had heard stories of Adrian Wells, reserved, intimidating, impossibly private, but volunteering. That was new. Lily peeked over her shoulder, trying to hide her confusion. Why would someone like him volunteer here? Why today? Why now? Her pulse quickened in a way she couldn't explain. They assigned Adrian to sorting pantry items, a task that required patience and attention, two things he excelled at. He rolled up the sleeves of his gray sweater, revealing strong forearms and a faint scar near his wrist. Lily tried not to stare, but she noticed the way he handled the cans gently, as if aware that dignity clung to even the smallest actions. At one point, Adrian glanced toward Lily, who was teaching a little girl how to zip a winter coat. And something inside him softened, an emotion he hadn't felt since before his mother died. A mix of gratitude and longing. A quiet hope he didn't dare name. Something he had believed was lost forever. He walked over, holding a box of granola bars. "Do these go in the kids' section?" Lily nodded, signing yes with a small, shy smile. Adrian's chest warmed at the sight of it. Her smile was gentle, almost hesitant, like sunlight pushing through a cloud. He placed the box exactly where she pointed. As the hours passed, Adrian found himself noticing details he used to overlook. The way the community worked like a woven quilt, each person different, each piece essential. The way people in this town said thank you with their eyes, not just their words. How neighbors showed up for each other without needing credit. It made him rethink everything he once valued. At noon, the volunteers gathered for lunch. Sandwiches, soup, and Mrs. Donovan's famous oatmeal cookies. Lily sat at the far end of the table, where she usually hid in plain sight. Adrian surprised everyone by sitting beside her. Her back straightened instantly, breath catching. He kept a respectful distance, but his presence still made her heart race. "You don't have to be nervous," he said softly, breaking his sandwich in half. Lily's cheeks flushed. She signed, "I'm just not used to people choosing to sit with me." Adrian blinked, stunned by her honesty. Then they've been choosing wrong. She looked away, overwhelmed by a warmth she hadn't expected. It wasn't romantic, not yet. It was something deeper, something healing, a kind of kindness she hadn't known how to accept. During cleanup, a rumor started spreading among volunteers. "Isn't he the billionaire who funded the tech hub downtown? I heard he never smiles." "I heard he's only here for PR." Lily heard whispers and tightened her jaw. Adrian pretended not to notice, but Lily saw the slight tension in his shoulders. She recognized that look, the look of someone used to being misunderstood. Her heart tugged in a way she didn't expect. Someone once misjudged her too. Someone once mocked her voice and told others she was slow. When a volunteer joked loudly, "Maybe he's here for the cameras," Lily's chest filled with an unfamiliar boldness. She stepped forward and signed sharply, "He's helping more than anyone else today. Show some gratitude." Her hands moved quickly, her cheeks flushed with courage. Everyone fell silent. Adrian stared at her, stunned and deeply moved. The volunteer mumbled an apology and went back to sorting jackets. Lily's pulse hammered in her ears. She hadn't meant to be so forceful. But Adrian approached slowly, his voice low, sincere. "Thank you," he said. "No one has defended me like that in a long time." Lily swallowed hard, her fingers trembling as she signed. "You didn't deserve it." Adrian studied her, really studied her. Not like a man observing a woman, like a man recognizing a mirror, someone who also carried wounds no one saw. For the rest of the afternoon, something unspoken settled between them. Gentle, powerful, unmistakable. Adrian worked beside her, following her lead without overshadowing her. He asked questions only when necessary, never interrupting her silence. Lily realized she didn't feel pressured around him. She felt understood. As the day ended and volunteers began leaving, Adrian waited by the door. Lily approached slowly, unsure why her heart felt too big for her chest. Adrian didn't smile. He softened, which was far more rare. "You changed something in me today," he said quietly. And Lily realized she had felt it too. The sky darkened earlier than usual that evening, heavy clouds swallowing the last traces of daylight. Lily felt a familiar tension in the air, one that didn't come from the weather. Inside the shelter, people whispered in hushed tones, glancing at the door as if expecting something to break. And deep down, Lily sensed it too. Something was about to shift. Adrian arrived moments later, his shoulders rigid, jaw set. He wasn't the calm, softened version she'd seen recently. Something was wrong. He walked with purpose, but his eyes carried a weight that made Lily's stomach twist. She approached quietly, waiting for him to speak, but he didn't. Not yet. It was Mrs. Donovan who broke the silence. "Adrian, have you seen the paper?" Lily turned sharply. Adrian closed his eyes as if bracing into a storm. That was when Lily felt the first hook of fear pull inside her chest. Someone laid the local newspaper on the counter. Front page. A photo of the shelter. A headline twisting the truth into something cruel. "Millionaire uses community center for image boost." Lily felt the air leave her lungs. This wasn't just false. It was an attack on everything he had been trying to change. Volunteers exchanged glances, unsure of what to believe. And Lily could feel Adrian's pain without needing a single word from him. He didn't defend himself. He didn't explain. He just stepped back, as if the floor beneath him had given way. For a man who rarely showed emotion, the hurt was unmistakable. And Lily felt something inside her crack. The whispers grew louder. Maybe it's true. Rich people always have an angle. Lily's jaw tightened. She had heard those tones before. Tones that tear down the innocent. She glanced at Adrian, who looked like he was being accused of every sin he never committed. Adrian finally whispered, "I didn't know it would cause trouble for the shelter." The vulnerability in his voice stunned Lily. This wasn't the hardened CEO the world thought he was. This was a man carrying guilt that wasn't his. And suddenly, she couldn't stay silent. Lily stepped in front of him, her pulse hammering. She signed firmly, her hands trembling with righteous anger. "None of this is true. You care. I know you do." People turned, startled by her boldness. Adrian stared at her like she had just pulled him back from a cliff. But one of the volunteers scoffed. "How would she know? She barely talks." The room went silent. Lily felt her throat close, years of humiliation rushing back. Adrian's expression shifted instantly. That comment hit somewhere deep inside him too. He stepped closer, voice low and controlled. "She knows because she sees people deeper than you ever have." The room froze. No one had ever spoken for Lily like that. And the hook was undeniable. What would happen now? But damage spreads quickly in small towns. Someone had already posted the article online. Comments were exploding, twisting the story even more. Adrian's phone buzzed non-stop. Partners, investors, critics. Lily watched it all happening like a slow-motion collapse. "I should leave," Adrian whispered almost to himself. His voice was flat, drained. "If my presence is harming this place, I'll step away." Lily's chest tightened painfully. He was protecting the shelter, but breaking himself in the process. She shook her head desperately, hands forming broken signs, trying to stop him, trying to say something that wouldn't fall apart. But nothing came out. Her voice refused to surface when she needed it most. Panic rose in her throat. He turned toward the door. Rain exploded outside as he pushed it open, a storm that reflected everything happening inside them both. Lily felt her heart rip forward before her feet did. She ran after him into the downpour, breath uneven, hands trembling. She didn't care who watched. "Adrian!" she tried to call out, but her voice cracked, eaten by thunder. Still, he froze. He didn't turn, but he froze. Because even drowned by rain, he felt her desperation. Lily caught up, grabbing his sleeve with both hands. She couldn't speak. Her voice had abandoned her again. But her eyes begged him not to go. Water streamed down her face, mixing with tears she couldn't hide. And in that moment, he saw everything she couldn't say. Slowly, painfully slowly, Adrian turned toward her. His expression shattered. Fear, hope, hurt, longing. He didn't wait for words. He didn't need them. He whispered, "If I leave, you'll disappear too." And for the first time, Lily knew. He wasn't stepping away from the shelter. He was stepping away from her. The rain didn't let up. It grew heavier, turning the parking lot into a glistening sheet of trembling reflections. Lily stood in front of Adrian, soaked from head to toe, heart pounding against bones already fragile from old wounds. She tried speaking again, but the words tangled in her throat, trapped by years of fear. Adrian watched her, breath unsteady as if one wrong move would break them both. "Lily," he whispered, his voice nearly drowned by the storm. She pressed a hand to her chest, trying to steady her breath. Her fingers shook violently, half from cold, half from emotion. Adrian took one careful step closer. It was enough to unravel something inside her. She opened her mouth again. Nothing. Her chest tightened painfully. The humiliation felt familiar, too familiar. Her eyes filled with tears she'd held back for years. And Adrian saw all of it. Without hesitation, he reached out, not to touch her, but to shield her from the storm, standing between her and the wind. "You don't have to force it," he said softly. "You don't owe me words." Lily closed her eyes, tears slipping freely now. No one had ever said that to her. When she finally looked up, Adrian wasn't watching her lips. He was watching her eyes, her hands, her breathing. He was listening to her entire being. It was the first time in her life someone truly listened beyond sound, and that alone nearly broke her. She felt seen at a level that terrified and comforted all at once. She lifted her trembling hands slowly. Her signs were broken, hesitant. "I want to tell you. I just don't know how." Adrian nodded instantly, his expression softening with deep understanding. "And I'll stay right here," he said, "until you do." A hook formed in the air. What would she reveal? Lily took a shaky breath and pointed toward the shelter's awning. They stepped under it, the rain still roaring inches away. The dim porch light flickered above them. Adrian waited, patient, steadfast, willing to let silence be a bridge instead of a barrier. Lily felt the courage she'd lost years ago begin to rise again. She placed her notebook on the bench, opening it slowly. Inside were sketches, diagrams, handwritten notes. Her secret dream. A plan for a communication-friendly wing at the shelter. Spaces designed for people with anxiety, stutters, hearing impairments, trauma. A place where silence wasn't judged, but honored. Adrian inhaled sharply, overwhelmed. "You built all of this?" Lily nodded timidly. Her eyes dropped to the pages, bracing for criticism she had always received. But none came. Instead, Adrian whispered, "Lily, this is beautiful." Her breath caught. Her fingers tightened on the notebook edges. Beautiful? No one had ever used that word for her work. Most people hadn't even cared to look. He sat beside her, careful to keep space while still offering closeness. "How long have you been hiding this?" Lily hesitated, then signed. "Since the workshop, the day I tried to speak." Adrian's heart clenched. She didn't need to explain the rest. He already saw it. Thunder rumbled in the distance, but neither flinched. Adrian turned toward her fully now. "Whoever hurt you? Whoever made you afraid of your own voice?" He paused, jaw tight with anger he rarely let show. "They don't get to decide who you become." Lily looked away quickly, tears blurring her vision. It was too much. Too kind. Too honest. Her heart wasn't used to being this open, but Adrian didn't rush her. He simply waited for her walls to lower on their own. Her lips parted slowly. A soft, trembling sound escaped. Her attempt at forming words. Adrian leaned in slightly, not out of urgency but reverence. He wanted to catch every breath, every syllable she fought to release. Another hook. Would she trust him with the truth? Finally, with a voice fragile as cracking ice, she whispered, "I'm scared." Adrian's eyes softened instantly. "Of me?" Lily shook her head quickly. "Of being heard wrong." Adrian exhaled deeply, emotion flooding his features. "Then hear this, right?" He said gently. "I don't need perfect sentences. I don't need polished words. I don't need your voice to be strong." He paused, his breath trembling. "I just need it to be yours." Lily's knees weakened, and she sank onto the wooden bench. Adrian didn't touch her, still respectful, still steady, but he lowered himself beside her. The rain softened as if giving them space. Lily covered her mouth, overwhelmed by a truth too large to hide anymore, and Adrian watched her, heart open, waiting for what came next. With a trembling inhale, Lily whispered the one truth the world had never heard from her lips. The truth she had buried deepest. "I stopped speaking because someone taught me my voice didn't matter." Adrian's chest tightened painfully. He whispered back, "Then let me be the one who shows you." It always did. The morning after the storm felt deceptively peaceful. The streets were washed clean, the sky pale and quiet, almost too quiet. Lily arrived early at the shelter, hoping the calm would steady her heart. But something gnawed at her, a whisper of unease she couldn't shake. She sensed a test approaching, even if she couldn't name it yet. Adrian hadn't arrived yet, though he usually came early now. Lily tried not to let that worry her, focusing on preparing the kitchen for breakfast. The clang of pots and pans didn't drown her thoughts. She kept replaying last night, his gentleness, his words, the way he listened. She felt her heart opening, and it terrified her. The front door opened slowly. Not Adrian. A woman stepped in. Stylish, poised, cold. Her high heels echoed against the old floorboards like unwelcome punctuation marks. Lily didn't know her, but everything inside her tightened. The woman scanned the room with obvious distaste before approaching the volunteer desk. "I'm looking for Adrian Wells," she announced, her voice sharp enough to cut through steel. Lily froze. Something about the woman's tone felt personal, dangerous, and she quickly became the center of every whisper. Lily watched quietly as the woman paced impatiently. A volunteer whispered, "That's his ex-fiancée, the one from Boston." The words hit Lily like cold air. Suddenly the room felt too small, her breath too shallow. Moments later, Adrian walked in, stopping dead when he saw her. His expression tightened with dread. "Danielle, what are you doing here?" Danielle crossed her arms, lifting her chin. "Fixing a mistake." The tension in the room thickened instantly. Lily stepped back, gripping the edge of the counter for balance. Danielle's gaze swept the shelter, full of judgment, until it landed on Lily. Her eyebrows lifted in cruel amusement. "So this is her?" Adrian moved between them instinctively. "Leave Lily out of this." But Danielle only smirked. "Why?" "She's clearly the reason you've lost your mind." The hook tightened. What truth was she about to twist? Danielle leaned in, voice dripping venom. You walked away from our life, our plans, to play hero in this rundown place? For her? Adrian's jaw clenched. This isn't about her, he said. Then what is it about? Danielle snapped. Adrian took a deep breath, his eyes flicking toward Lily with a softness Danielle instantly noticed. It's about who I became with you, he said quietly. And who I'm becoming now. Lily's heart pounded painfully, hope and fear colliding in her chest. Danielle's eyes narrowed, sensing exactly what she was losing. You're throwing everything away, Danielle said, voice rising. Your connections, your reputation, your future. My future is mine to choose, Adrian interrupted firmly, and I refuse to build it on pretense. The room buzzed with whispers. Danielle's gaze snapped toward Lily again, sharp as glass. She doesn't belong in your world, Adrian. Lily flinched at the words, old insecurities roaring to life. Danielle continued, People will laugh, they already are. Adrian stepped forward, voice cold. Enough. But the damage was done. Lily's breath came short, memories of humiliation clawing their way back. Danielle's words had echoed an old fear she never fully escaped. She backed away from Adrian, her eyes filled with uncertainty. He noticed immediately. Lily, don't listen to her, Adrian said, moving toward her. But Lily shook her head, stepping back. Her voice trembled inside her chest like a trapped bird. She signed slowly. Maybe she's right. Adrian froze, his heart dropping. Danielle watched with satisfaction, whispering a final blow. Adrian, you don't even belong in your world right now. Then she turned and walked out, heels clicking triumphantly across the floor. The door slammed shut behind her, and silence consumed the room. Adrian turned back to Lily, anguish in his eyes. Lily, please, don't let her words take root. But Lily's hands trembled too badly to sign. Her throat burned with unsaid pain. Old wounds and new fears collided in a way she couldn't contain. She closed her notebook, clutching it tightly against her chest, shielding the dream she suddenly felt unworthy of. Her gaze dropped to the floor. Every fear Danielle planted grew heavier inside her heart. Adrian reached out, but she stepped away. I just need time, she whispered, barely audible. She walked out of the shelter before he could answer, the bell above the door chiming like a quiet heartbreak. Adrian stood frozen, realizing this was the greatest test yet. Not the storm, not the accusations, not the past, but whether Lily would believe she was worthy of being chosen. Lily walked through the quiet morning streets, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. The town seemed muted, as if holding its breath with her. She clutched her notebook tightly, the weight of Danielle's words lingering like unwelcome shadows. She had heard them before, from past voices, past wounds, and feared they might be true. That fear chased her all the way to the park bench overlooking the river. She sat, letting the wind dry the tears she refused to wipe. For years she had avoided being seen, avoided being chosen, avoided being heard. But Adrian had shattered that hiding place, gently, yet completely, and now she didn't know how to step toward him or how to step away. The ache sat deep, heavy, holy. Back at the shelter, Adrian was falling apart silently. He stood in the hallway where she usually sorted supplies. Her absence felt louder than any argument he'd ever had. His hands shook as he touched the back of a chair she'd once sat in. He whispered to no one, I shouldn't have let her walk away. He didn't care about the article. He didn't care about the gossip. He didn't even care about the investors calling him nonstop. All he cared about was the look Lily had given him, a look that said she didn't know if she deserved him, and that broke him in a way nothing else ever had. Because Adrian knew heartbreak, he knew loss, he knew betrayal, but he had never known watching someone doubt their own worth. Mrs. Donovan approached him quietly, wiping her hands on her apron. Go find her, she said gently. Adrian blinked. You know where she is? She smiled knowingly. Honey, women like Lily don't disappear. They retreat somewhere peaceful, until the world feels safe again. Adrian swallowed hard. And where would that be? The river, she said confidently. That's where her thoughts settle. Adrian didn't waste a second. He grabbed his coat and rushed out the door, determined, breathless, praying he wasn't too late. The hook tightened. What would he say if he found her? Lily didn't hear him approach at first. Her eyes were fixed on the river's gentle current, her heart floating somewhere between fear and longing. Snowflakes had begun to fall, soft, silent, pure. When Adrian finally reached her, he slowed, letting his presence announce itself softly. He didn't want to startle her, only meet her where she was. "Lily," he said quietly. She stiffened but didn't turn. Her breath wavered, one hand tightening on her notebook. He stepped beside her, keeping respectful distance. "I need to say something, and I need you to hear it right." She turned her face slightly, just enough for him to see the fear in her eyes. Adrian inhaled deeply. "You think you're not enough for my world," he began. "But Lily, I don't want the world I had before you." The wind seemed to pause, listening. "I want the world where kindness matters, where silence isn't a flaw, where hearts speak louder than voices." Lily blinked rapidly, tears gathering. "And that world," he whispered, "started the moment I saw you." Her breath caught. She felt everything in her chest begin to unravel. Adrian took a brave step forward, still giving her space, but close enough to feel her tremble. "You didn't break my life," he said softly. "You healed it, slowly, silently, gently." Lily's tears slipped down her cheeks freely now. He continued, voice cracking, "And I don't want to return to who I was before you." He reached out a hand, slowly, offering, not claiming. "If you need time, I'll wait. If you need space, I'll give it. But don't ever think you're unworthy of standing beside me." Lily's breath shuddered. No one had ever given her choice. No one had ever given her time. She looked down at her notebook, the one that held her dreams, her pain, her hope. Then she handed it to him. Gently, willingly. It was her way of letting him in. Adrian took it with reverent hands, as if holding something sacred. "Lily, are you sure?" he whispered. She nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. Her hands rose slowly, forming trembling signs. "I trust you." Adrian's breath hitched. It was the first time she'd expressed something so vulnerable, and he received it like a prayer. She took one small step closer, so small, yet it shook him to the core, then another, until she was finally standing close enough for him to feel the warmth of her breath in the cold air. Her lips parted. It wasn't fear this time. It was courage. In a voice fragile but full of truth, she whispered, "Adrian, you saw me, before anyone else ever did." His heart broke open, fully, beautifully. He gently cupped her cheek, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their foreheads touched, breath mingling, world quieting. It wasn't a kiss. It was something deeper. Snow fell around them like a blessing as Lily whispered the words she had forgotten she was capable of saying. "I'm ready to be heard." Adrian pulled her into an embrace, steady, reverent, home. And as they stood by the river, two hearts finally choosing each other, one truth echoed through them both. He saw her heart long before her words ever could, and that was where their story truly began. In the quiet snowfall of that small New England town, their story didn't end. It began, not with grand speeches or perfect declarations, but with a heart finally brave enough to be heard, and another heart gentle enough to listen. Lily discovered something she had spent years believing she'd lost, not her voice, but her worth. And Adrian learned that love doesn't come through polished words or flawless confidence. It comes through the courage to be honest, the humility to see beyond appearances, and the grace to choose someone not for how loudly they speak, but for how deeply they feel. In a world that rushes past quiet souls, Adrian stopped long enough to see one, and Lily stepped out of her silence long enough to be seen. Their story reminds us that God often whispers his greatest gifts, not through noise, not through perfection, but through the gentle, fragile courage of a heart learning to trust again, a heart learning to believe. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of being heard. So if you felt something tonight, If something in Lily's journey echoed inside your own heart, don't ignore it. Let it speak to you the same way she finally let her heart speak to him. Because sometimes the greatest stories are not told in words, but in healing, in choosing, in staying, in loving, quietly, faithfully, and fully. Before you leave, subscribe now, not just for more stories, but so your heart never walks this journey alone again. Join the Redeemed Hearts family, and let us walk with you through healing, faith, and second chances.